This is the new Longines Legend Diver, coming in at 39mm. And in this video, we're going to be reviewing this watch, getting hands-on, and seeing how it looks on the wrist. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always, and it's a good day when we get a Longines in. I love getting a Longines in, because normally speaking, or 99.9% of the time, I love them. You know, Longines have been on such a roll this year, and I would actually argue that they're on the biggest roll of any brand in history. I mean, at the start of this year, we had the Longines Hydro Conquest GMT, an upgraded bracelet, an upgraded face. It just looks epic. And then obviously you had the Conquest Chrono, which looks damn sexy as a dress watch. They've added more sports stuff into it. And then you have this, a watch that I didn't want to like, a watch that the previous version I wasn't as keen on, but this, I mean, Jesus. In 1959, Longines released the Legend Diver, the first Legend Diver, and they actually made it a 39mm. So let's look at the industry at the moment. Typically what happens is things start small, and then they get bigger, and then they kind of work their way back down. If you look at mobile phones, that's kind of what they're doing as well. And this has done exactly the same thing. They have taken inspiration from this 1959 original and made this 39mm, whereas the previous variant was 42mm. It fits so much better, and I think one of the reasons for that is because it has a very limited bezel, or next to no bezel, and that makes the face look a little bit bigger. Now, if you make a limited bezel watch on a big case diameter, for example 42 to 44, it looks a little bit like a dinner plate on your wrist. It loses the dressy feel and just looks too big, too much like the unblinking eye of Sauron. But this looks absolutely great. The thickness of this watch remains the same as the previous version at 12.7mm, and even though it's the same as the 42mm variant, that is still quite damn thin, and it sits very, very nicely on the wrist. Now, you do get a couple of variations to choose between of these new models, but because they're so new, there's not as many variations as the 42mm variant. You get a blue dial on a NATO strap, a blue dial on kind of like a rice grain approach bracelet. You get a black dial on a leather strap. It's probably my least favorite. I can't really connect with leather straps, never have. And then you also get the black dial on the bracelet. The lug distance of these watches comes in at 20mm. And actually the profile of this watch is just pretty damn sexy. It does have domed, quite aggressively domed sapphire crystal glass, which if I had to nitpick, I would maybe bring down just a touch, but because of that kind of heritage feel, because they're dragging so much inspiration from that 1959 classic, it doesn't look bad. Let's weigh these models really, really quickly to give you a kind of gauge of how much they weigh, because I know that a lot of people won't have actually got these on the wrist yet. So in the bracelet, in the full stainless steel bracelet, it comes in at round about 141 grams, whereas on the leather strap, which is the other variant we've got with us, it comes in at about 82 grams. So you can see that that bracelet makes a huge difference to the actual weight of the watch. Now, personally speaking, the NATO or the bracelet are the sexiest options, and that's the ones I would go for. The case and the bracelet on all of these models comes in stainless steel, unless of course you get the NATO or the leather. Now, the bracelet has quite an aggressive taper on it and a rice grain feel in the middle, kind of working its way out into an oyster bracelet. If you guys get Rolex, you'll understand that. Now, the back of the bracelet here, the clasp here, has a polished link down the middle, a kind of a polished finish, which looks great. However, the one thing that I would say is that polished metal, when you are at a desk, is not your friend. Let's think about this logically. You're holding the mouse with your right hand and you've got something shiny like this in your right hand. The first thing that's going to scratch is that. Moving on from the bracelet to the general case profile of this watch, and this is where it's really interesting. This is where it's really different, and this is what I love to see in the industry. Different stuff is a love or hate to people. I mean, if Apple bring out a new Apple Watch, I hate the Apple Watch, whereas a lot of people might love the Apple Watch. And the same goes for the Omega Seamaster, the crown, the helium escape valve. A lot of people hate it. I personally like it. That'll be the same for the dual-pronged crown on the right-hand side of this watch. Now, they're both screw-down crowns, but one rotates the bezel on the inside on this watch, so it's like an interior rotating bezel, and then the next rotates, well, and it's just the movement, it's powering and winding up the movement. This is a really nice touch, and actually I like things that are different. I like things that are a little bit quirky, a little bit weird, and to be honest, that you can just play with. And I've been playing with this literally since we started this video. Now, this rotating interior bezel is actually bidirectional, so it doesn't rotate one way, it's not unidirectional, it goes both ways, which is weirdly helpful, especially for watch nerds, especially when you have a bit of ADHD like me and you're kind of turning things quite a lot, you're fiddling with things, you don't need to wind it the whole way around in order to go back to the start and kind of align the watch, make it symmetrical. You can just go beep, 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 and move it back to the start. So this watch, the aesthetics of this watch are kind of a contradiction to me, and I want to talk about it. Diving watches are typically very, very sporty, and they have the functionality of a diving watch because they are sporty. This watch is very, very dressy, and it has the functionality of a diving sports watch. That's kind of just an added benefit, but I couldn't imagine myself going diving with this watch. I don't know, let me know in the comments what you think, but I just think this watch is a very pleasant contradiction. Moving into the hands and the face of this watch in general, obviously the face comes in two different colors. We've got both of them here. We've got the black dial and the blue dial. Typically, I would go for the black, but in this instance, I would have to go for the blue here. It's a really, really dark shade of blue and adds that extra splash of color, which I quite like. It looks damn good. Now, what I love about the face of this watch when you dive below the glass is the bezel slopes in really, really slightly and adds a layer of depth to this dial. The hands and the indices of this model, or the kind of minute markers, are in white, and that's highly readable against that dark, dark blue aesthetic. One thing I do need to say about this watch before I go any further is, and this might be a me thing, this might be because I'm quite heavily dyslexic. So when I look at numbers or when I look at writing, everything merges together. It's a pain. That's why I very often get captions wrong or stuff on the Chisholm Hunter watches page wrong. It's just my personality. I do have dyslexia. But what they have done is they've put a little dot of Lume beside the 12, 3, 6, and 9 mark. Now, if you were to look at the 3 mark, because there's a line of Lume on the left-hand side, immediately to me, that screams 13. It doesn't scream 3. Now, this will probably be just a me thing. However, it's a little niggle that functionally makes sense as a diving watch. But as a dress watch, they probably just didn't need to do it. And it's about that time again. It is time for the Chisholm Hunter tradition. Jesus God, I can never say that word. Tradition, which of course is the wrist check. Let me know in the comments what watch you have on your wrist today. Does anyone have the new Longines Legend Diver on the wrist, or the old version? Let me know in the comments. Currently, I have the Omega Seamaster at 300 meters on the wrist, the classic. Don't want to talk too much about it because I will get slated in the comments, but it is available at Chisholm Hunter, along with the Longines watches, which you can find at chisholmhunter.co.uk. As you can see here, the Lume is in a bright green color, and it lights up the inner dial absolutely beautifully. And you also have that dot at the 12 o'clock mark, or just above the 12 o'clock mark, which looks fantastic. But this is where I think this watch is a little bit of a contradiction again, because technically speaking, as a diving watch, you'd want to fill the whole dial with superluminova, not just the interior bit of the dial, because you want it to be big, bold, and readable when you're in a wetsuit under the water. So this looks aesthetically cool, but functionally it's maybe not as good as it could be. The movement of this watch is actually hidden behind a closed caseback, and the movement of this watch is the caliber L888, and it's a self-winding mechanical movement beating at 25,200 VPH. It has a monocrystalline silicon balance spring and a power reserve up to 72 hours. It's important to say as well that this whole watch is COSC certified, which is pretty good for the price. So let's quickly dive over 3 loves and 3 changes that I would make to this watch. And then after we've done that, we'll talk about the price and our final thoughts. So 3 things I love. Let's really quickly get into this. I love that dual pronged crown, that attacking crown, that aggressive, different crown, because it just looks so damn different. I love the interior rotating bezel, which is bidirectional, because often on my Seamaster, I go like this, can't shuffle it back, and then I need to go. You get the picture. And finally, I love the NATO strap combined with this 39mm watch. I think they've kind of nailed the sizing of this watch, and it looks brilliant. I mean, it's a dress watch with diving functionality. Now, no watch can ever get everything right, and that brings me on to the things that I would probably change. I would probably change the superluminova looking like a 13 mark, you know, looking just kind of messing with my dyslexia a little bit, but that's kind of personal. I would also change the bracelet ever so slightly, and I wouldn't have it on a leather strap. But these aren't things that are wrong with the watch. These are personal preferences that I would change. In terms of things that I actually think are wrong, I can't really think of anything. And that brings me on to the price of this watch. With the bracelet, this watch comes in at £3,050. Obviously, you're paying a little bit less for the NATO or the leather, but overall, it's going to cost you about £3,000. That's a lot. That is a lot of money. However, for the money, you are getting a lot. And you are also you're essentially getting two watches in one, because it's a dress watch with diving functionality. Honestly, I kind of wanted to not like this watch. And I don't like that about myself. I thought we've reviewed 3 Longines watches and I've liked all of them. Let's have a watch that I don't like. So I had this stigma in my head before I reviewed this watch. And when I actually got it on the wrist, I even said this to Drew, I was like, damn, I really hate the fact I like it, but I just do. Thank you guys so much for watching this Chisholm Hunter video. I really hope you enjoyed. My name is Harrison, as always. If you did enjoy, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram, Chisholm Hunter Watches. And also, let me know what you think of the new set. This is brand new, still going through improvements, still tweaking things here and there. If you've got any feedback for us of what you'd like to see, a Chisholm Hunter logo, a new plan, let us know in the comments.